Hey guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be recapping everything that went down in Crescent City in preparation for the new release of House of Sky and Breath. Alright guys, so I'm going to be completely honest with you, this is the hardest video I've ever tried to film. Recapping everything that happened in Crescent City is very difficult. There are a lot of subplots and information in Crescent City, and I'm just not exactly positive what's going to be relevant for House of Sky and Breath, so I'm going to try to touch on it all. The formatting of this is going to be a little bit different than the other series recaps. I'm going to go through the plot and everything very significant that happened in the plot. Then I'm going to do a brief history of like the different wars that were fought, and then I'm going to do a deep dive into like all of the characters. So this is probably going to be a pretty long video. Now this will contain a lot of spoilers for Crescent City. This video is literally just for people who don't want to go back and reread the book before the new one comes out. So if you do not want to be spoiled, do not watch this video. I will also be doing a separate House of Sky and Breath predictions video that should be released right after this one, so you can look forward to that. Now, before we begin, those of you who are unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram. It is linked down in the description below. You can also check out my Goodreads that I just started and I'm really enjoying, so that will also be linked down below. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's recap Crescent City. Also, before we jump in, I have tried doing this in one take many times. I cannot do it. So I apologize in advance if the editing in this video isn't great and is a little choppy. I have to look down at my computer at my notes because it is impossible to do otherwise. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the plot of Crescent City. All right, guys, so jumping in to the plot of this book. Crescent City is an urban fantasy story that is set in Lunathian, which is the city that is comprised of Vanir and humans. Now, Vanir is any paranormal creature, and they have everything. We have angels, we have vampires, we have werewolves, and then there's also the humans that are looked down upon by the Vanir, and the Vanir really control the government. There is a human rebellion that is going on in another area named Pangera. I will get into all of that in the history, but just for now, we're going to stick to the main plot of this story. So, we are following Bryce Quinlan, and she is a half-fae, half-human, living in Crescent City. Now, she works for Griffin Antiquities, which is owned by Jessica, who is a very old sorceress. I will also get more into Jessica later. Now, there's also Lahaba, who is a fire sprite, and Syrinx. These two people are almost seen as slaves in this society, and we find out more about that later, but Bryce is very close with both of them, and they pretty much stay at the antiquity shop, except for Syrinx, who's kind of like a dog that Bryce will sometimes take home with her. Now, Bryce has three very good friends. The most important to this story is Danica Vanir. Now, she is the daughter of, or the granddaughter of the alpha of the prime werewolves. I know, it's very confusing. She's just the top werewolf at this point. And she is the leader, the alpha of the Pack of Devils, which is almost like a vigilante type wolf pack that really deals with crime in Crescent City. So Danica and Bryce are just BFFs, best friends. There's also Juniper, who is half fawn and she's a dancer, and there's Fury. They're not super relevant early, so I'm not really going to get into that. But Danica and Bryce just have this very strong bond. They actually have tattoos together, and they love the saying, "Through love, all is possible." And Danica is just this badass. I love her. She's such a cool character. And then Bryce, she really defends Bryce from everyone who kind of hates on her because she's half human, half fae. Now, moving forward, we're kind of just following Bryce's life, and Bryce is looking for Luna's horn from Jessica. So Jessica, like I said, collects artifacts. That is Bryce's job. So she's trying to find Luna's horn, which is a fae relic that was recently stolen from Luna's temple. No one really knows what this horn does. They just know that it's very powerful and it belonged to the fae. Now, that is what Bryce is trying to do. Then we see Danica, and she's very upset because this man named Philip Briggs, who's part of a human rebellion, is being released on a technicality, and Danica is the one who put him in jail. So now Danica is very worried that Philip Briggs is going to come after her, the Pack of Devils, or Bryce, the people close to her. So that's really what's going on in the very beginning of the story. Now, moving forward, one night, Bryce is going on a date with a guy that is treating her very poorly, and Danica is staying at home with her wolf pack, having a wolf night. So the date doesn't go well. Bryce ends up calling Juniper and Fury, and they go to this nightclub, and Bryce gets very heavily intoxicated, like stumbling down the street, doesn't really know what's going on, somehow makes it home, and when she gets home, she finds out that the entire pack of devils and Danica have been brutally murdered. They are just like piles of blood and gore, and she sees this Crystallos demon, and she believes they're responsible, so she's chasing this demon, and she just doesn't care about herself at this point. Bryce has a very low power level, so if she caught up to this demon, it wouldn't work. Another important thing I forgot to mention, this is probably going to happen a lot, the way power levels work is you're able to make a drop, or Veneer are able to make a drop, which is them dropping into their subconscious, their power level, and then coming back up. But you always need an anchor to do this, someone anchored to the physical world in order to bring you back. So Danica and Bryce are going to be each other's anchors, and they both want to make this drop on their 27th birthday. After this drop is completed, typically Veneer are pretty much immortal. Not immortal, they just age very, very slowly. They heal very quickly, and it's very powerful. But like I said, Danica unfortunately hadn't made the drop yet, hence why she was killed so easily. So, not easily, but hence why she was killed. So, back to Bryce, she's chasing this Crystallos demon, and she ends up seeing a fallen angel. And he's completely mauled, she doesn't recognize him, and she saves him. She calls for help, and backup come, they're able to save this demon, and Bryce is just completely distraught. Her life is just turned upside down. Danica was her best friend, her biggest supporter, and now it's all over. So directly after Bryce's encounter with the Crystallos demon, and she saves the Archangel, we find out the Archangel is actually Micah, and Micah is like the controlling governor of the city of Lunathian. He is unbelievably powerful and very feared by a lot of people. Now, Micah has the 33rd Legion of Angels under his power, and they are angels that took part in a rebellion 200 years ago in an area known as Pangea. When I was talking about the humans trying to be freed, it has to do with that. I'm going to get into that history a little bit later. Just know that Micah has these angels as slaves that he uses for assassins, or almost as like a police department, essentially, but they're very good at their jobs. So Bryce is taken to a holding cell following everything that happened, trying to figure out what happened with Danica and the wolf pack. So Sabine Fenrir is Danica's mother, and she, because Danica is dead, is now like the top wolf. And she's pretty much evil. She's always hated Bryce, thinks Bryce is beneath her, and wishes that Danica and Bryce never were friends, and is trying to blame all of this on Bryce. Now we meet Hunt, Athalar, and Isaiah. So Hunt and Isaiah are both part of that 33rd Angel Legion I was talking about that are slaves that are controlled by Micah. Hunt Athalar was known as the Umbra Mortis, and he has crazy lightning power, and he is very feared. He has a deal with Micah that if he kills 2,000 people, he will be released. And that is what he's trying to do. He's just trying to kill off all of these people in order to gain his freedom. Then we have Isaiah, who's just the leader of the 33rd. I think he's going to play a bigger part in the next book. That's why I'm bringing him up. So they are interviewing Bryce, trying to figure out what happened, and Bryce is just so shaken and so devastated, and she isn't really retaining anything of what's going on. So then a mysterious Fae comes into the jail, and he's able to pull some strings and able to get Bryce released without any more interrogation. We find out that that Fae is Rune Danon. Now, Rune Danon is the son of the Autumn King. The Autumn King is the king of all of the Fae. Now, we find out also that Rune is actually Bryce's brother. However, no one knows this. It's being kept very hush-hush because no one wants to know. The Autumn King doesn't want anyone to know that he had an affair with a human. Hence, Bryce is his bastard daughter. So Rune is able to pull some strings, get Bryce out of there, and then we jump 2 years in the future. And we find out that Philip Briggs has been charged with the murder of Danica and the Pack of Devils. Like I said, Philip Briggs was the human in charge of this rebellion, and it would make sense that he would kill Danica. So 2 years pass, Bryce is just trying to live her life, keep a low profile. She's moved into a new apartment, has a bunch of wards on it, and she's still working for Griffin Antiquities trying to find this horn. However, one day while she's like researching the lunar horn, Micah, the governor, ends up stopping by and says that another person was killed in a similar manner to Danica and the Pack of Devils, and maybe it wasn't Philip Briggs, and they got the wrong person. So he asks Bryce to hunt down whoever really killed Danica. Now, Bryce first doesn't want to do this, but then she realizes Danica was her best friend, and she really wants to solve the crime. So Micah drops another bomb and says that Hunt Athalar, the Umbra Mortis, is going to be partnered with Bryce and is going to look after Bryce just to make sure everything goes as planned. So we find out a little bit more about Hunt. So Hunt was originally owned by Sandriel, and he was owned by Sandriel for, I think, almost 200 years. And Sandriel is actually the twin sister of Hunt's lover, who was killed in this Angel Rebellion. So actually, Hunt's lover was the leader of the Angel Rebellion, in which Hunt was enslaved when he lost. So Sandriel ends up killing her twin sister, Sahar, Hunt's lover, and by doing that, she enslaves all of the angels that were going up against her. So Sandriel ended up selling Hunt to Micah, and Micah, like I said, teams Hunt up with Bryce in order to solve who killed Danica. So this is very important to him for some reason. Also, for the inconvenience, Micah even says, hey, if you are able to figure out who killed Danica and you keep Bryce alive, I will lower your debt to 10 more kills. So this is a great deal for Hunt. So unwillingly a little bit, Hunt and Bryce end up teaming up to try to figure out what went down with Danica and who actually killed her. So then we move to the Fae and we see Rune. So like I said, Rune is the son of the Autumn King, and what we find out is there's actually this oracle that all Fae go to see when they're 13 or they come of age, and the oracle gives these prophecies. And Rune had a prophecy saying he would be the last in his line, so that's kind of eating away at him. He's very worried that the royal line is going to die out with him. Now, the Autumn King also wants Rune to marry a witch named Hypaxia because she is the newest head of the witches, and Rune is very against this, by the way. We also find out that Rune has this star power. It's this light that some Fae are blessed with, and because he has this starlight, he is able to yield the star sword. And that is the only reason really that the Autumn King even values Rune as a son, is because he is blessed with this starlight. Now, like I said, the Autumn King and Bryce do not have a relationship at all. We find out that Bryce actually went to this oracle when she turned 13, when she wanted to get to know her father, and the oracle just started screaming in pain, and because of that, the Autumn King kicked Bryce out and was like, you're just a half-breed, and wants nothing to do with her. So that's what's going on with the Fae. We also find out that the Autumn King is trying to get Rune to find the lunar horn because it's supposed to have the ability to open up different gates into different worlds, which is going to become very important a little bit later on. So now we know that Rune is hunting for the horn, Bryce is also hunting for the horn, but is also trying to figure out who killed Danica, and Hunt is helping her. So then everything starts to get a little bit messy. So we're following Bryce and Hunt as they try to figure out what happened to Danica. And in doing so, they find out a little bit more information on Luna's horn. They find out that it is broken and can only be fixed by something that is light but not light, magic but not magic. That's going to make sense a little bit later. And we also discover that the lunar horn actually is what the Crystallos demons were created to do. So there's a good possibility that Danica knows where the lunar horn was, or at some point came into contact with the lunar horn, and that's why the Crystallos demon was after her. Then we discover, thanks to Rune's two friends who are also Fae, that are also very good with technology, that Danica was actually the one who stole the lunar horn. Now, we have to figure out, why did Danica do this? Also, why didn't Danica tell Bryce that she was stealing the lunar horn? Because, as we know, Bryce, in the very beginning of this novel, was trying to find the lunar horn to impress her boss. So we also discover that Sabine seems to be the one that covered up the footage of Danica stealing the horn. So immediately, Hunt and Bryce begin to suspect that Sabine, the leader of the pack and Danica's mother, might be the one responsible for killing Danica, since she really didn't seem to love her daughter. So Bryce and Hunt end up questioning Sabine. It turns out that it wasn't Sabine, and they're still trying to figure out what happened. Now, we also find out about this synthetic drug that is causing humans to gain these veneer magical abilities. And now it seems like the synthetic drug and the lunar horn and Danica's murder are all connected. Now, we jump over to Rune. Now, Rune is now in a very good relationship with Bryce again, and they're all working together to really solve this. Rune now is meeting with the witch that his father wants him to marry. She is a Medwitch. He doesn't realize this at this point in the story, but we know by the end. So this Medwitch is trying to figure out a way to use synth to use Crystallos venom in order to counteract what happens when people take synth. Because when people take synth, they gain the power, or when humans take synth, they gain the power of Veneer, but then they go insane and they kill everyone. Or if Veneer takes synth, they also go insane and they kill everyone. So they're trying to stop this from happening. And the antidote ends up being Cristallo's venom. So very important, we learn all this. So time passes, they're still trying to figure it out, and it turns out that Hunt was actually trying to get synth illegally in order to give it to the human rebellion, because he's also trying, even though he's enslaved, to become free, and he still wants to fight for the cause. Now, Bryce, who's been slowly falling in love with Hunt this entire time, is completely betrayed, and she thinks that Hunt was lying to her the entire time, and it's very sad. There's a slow burn romance. I think you guys can assume that. That's been going on this entire time. This is Sarah J. Maas. Between Hunt and Bryce, they're really just helping each other get out of each other's shell, get back to life. They both have suffered horribly in their past, and they're slowly falling in love with each other. So this betrayal that Hunt was actually trying to illegally get synth really hurts Bryce. So Hunt is taken in, put back in jail essentially, and he's given over from Micah to Sandriel. Like I said, Sandriel is his ex-lover's twin sister who's leading this evil army in Pangaea, and this is just absolute torture. So Bryce realizes that as much as she's hurt by Hunt's deception, she can't let Sandriel take Hunt. Like, this is horrible. So she's running to Sandriel, begs that they don't take Hunt, and it doesn't end up working. Runes ends up taking her away. And now there's a summit meeting. I know, guys, this is super chaotic. I'm doing my best. This is a very long book to summarize. So there's a summit meeting that is taking place between all of the top Veneers that control. So we have the head of the witches, the head of the fae, the head of the angels, and they are all meeting together to discuss this human rebellion that's taking place. And Hunt is there as a slave to Sandriel, who is like the top angel. Now, who is not present at this summit, who is supposed to be present at this summit, is Micah. So, for some reason, while Bryce is back at her work trying to figure out a way to save Hunt from this fate as a slave, Micah ends up showing up, and Bryce is immediately on guard. Like, he is not supposed to be here. Why is he here? So she texts her boss, Jessica, who she knows is at the summit, and says, hey, Micah's here, something's wrong. So Jessica uses some smart thinking and ends up projecting what's going on from the camera feed of her shop to the entire summit, so everyone can see Micah pretty much trying to kill Bryce, essentially, is what's going to happen. So Micah explains, and this is where it gets very complicated. Micah explains that it was actually him who has been summoning the Cristallo's demon because he's trying to find the horn. He wants the horn in order to open up one of the world's gates in order to get an army to kill the human rebellion in Pangaea, and it was really him the whole time. Danica figured out what Micah was trying to do and hid the horn. We then find out that Danica hid the horn in Bryce's body. One night after partying, Bryce got really drunk, and Danica had it tattooed, remnants of the horn tattooed into Bryce's skin. So all Micah now has to do is shove power through Bryce's tattoo, and it'll open up a gate to hell. And also, in order to fix the horn, he has to give Bryce synth, the drug, because that is what we know will fix the horn, and that will make Bryce go insane and she'll die. So this is all very, very scary. Now, all of this is happening, like I said, is being projected to the summit. So now Sandriel, the Autumn King, Sabine, all of the main players now know what actually happened, and they're just in shock. So they're trying to send backup to help Bryce, but they don't think they're going to get there in time. So they don't, and Micah is able to try to open the gates of hell. We don't know if it worked, but he's able to inject Bryce with synth, and we are very afraid she is going to go mad. Then, while all of this is happening, Micah ends up throwing Syrinx into, who I said is the pet chimera, into this dangerous area. Long story short, Lahava, who I wish I spent a little bit more time on, the fire sprite, ends up sacrificing herself in order for Syrinx and Bryce to get out of there safely away from Micah. It is such a sad part of the book. Oh my goodness. So anyway, Bryce and Syrinx are able to escape. Bryce takes a gun called the God Killer gun from Jessica's office and it kills Micah, the Archangel, with it. We also find out that we've known that Bryce is very good at shooting because her stepfather was an amazing sharpshooter. So she's very good with guns. So she ends up killing Micah, and we think everything's okay. We find out that Bryce also took an antidote to the synth that was created by the Crystallos venom that was sent to her by the witch that is supposed to be marrying Rune, or Rune's father wants them to marry. So all of that is going on. So now, when Bryce leaves, oh, actually, let's go back to the summit. So at the summit, everyone is in shock that Micah was really responsible for Danica's death and everything going on. It's just utter chaos at the summit. We also find out that the new witch, like I said, the one that's been is supposed to marry Rune, is an awesome character, and she goes over to Hunt, and she secretly takes off the imprisonment tattoo, and he's able to get his full power, and he ends up killing Sandriel. So now Hunt is essentially free from Sandriel, and he's going to go and try and save Bryce. Now we also find out that it's revealed to everyone at the summit that Bryce is actually the descendant from the Autumn King, and they're all dealing with those repercussions. And Sabine is dealing with the fact that her daughter was killed by Micah. It's a lot to process. So then, Bryce goes outside and finds out that Micah actually succeeded in opening a portal to hell, and all of these demons are out terrorizing everybody. So Bryce, being the amazing person she is, instead of hiding, decides she's going to kill as many demons as possible and try to save the humans that have no way of protecting themselves. So she's just begging the summit that she knows is listening to her, like, please send help, send help. No one's coming, and she's really the only one defending the humans. So then eventually some other people show up. They all try to help. There's another character that I'll talk about more that's one of the pack of devils siblings that ends up coming to her rescue, and they all are just trying to kill these demons. And then Bryce does this very big reveal where she reveals that she is actually Starborn. She has been blessed with so much starlight, more than anyone has ever seen, and it was really her and not Rune that has like the star power. Rune does have star power, he just has very little bit of it. She's really the one that got like the whole thing. So she uses her Starborn light, which actually isn't power, it's just light, in order to close one of the gates of hell. Unfortunately, all the gates of hell opened, so this also really tires her out, and no one knows what's gonna happen. So Fury, like I said in the very beginning, who is friends with Bryce, ends up going with Hunt. They take a helicopter over to try to save Bryce because there's an angel bombing going on, because now the angels know that Bryce has this light and she just killed another archangel, so they're gonna try to kill her. So at the last second, when there's a bomb about to drop on Bryce, Hunt's able to swoop down, sacrifices himself, and saves Bryce. However, he is almost killed in the process, and he's pretty much about to die. So Bryce realizes the only way she can save Hunt and save the people of Lunathian and close the gates is to make the power drop. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a human anchor. However, when she's just begging someone to help her and she's calling out into the abyss, Danica answers. So we find out that there is a little remnant of power that's in this bone quarter of Danica that is still alive and calls to Bryce and says, I'm with you. And that's all of the motivation Bryce needs, and she ends up diving into her power. So we find out that Bryce actually dives super deep down into her power level. She has a crazy power level because it has to do with all of the light of the entire city. I'm not going to get into it right now. But she has a crazy power level, but they're very concerned she won't be able to make it back up. Because like I said, you need a human anchor to bring you back to the physical world, and Danica's dead. So even though Danica helped her get down there, they're not sure if to help her get back up. However, it's a happy story. So Bryce is able to ascend into her power level, and she saves everybody, and it's wonderful, and that's how it ends. It's so good. I really, really enjoyed the ending of this book. The whole last, like, 3/4 of this book is an emotional roller coaster, and I left a lot out. I really kept it to the most relevant parts. All right, guys, so I'm editing this, and I just realized I left out a very important part. So while Bryce and Hunt are going to try to figure out who killed Danica, at some point, Bryce ends up summoning one of the 7 princes of hell, and now these princes of hell live in hell, which is the world where the demons reside. And this prince is actually Adius, and we find out that Bryce met Adius when she was a young child after having this prophecy and being kicked out of the house by her father, and Adius comforted her. So she isn't as leery of Adius and wants his help to figure out what happened. So they have a very brief conversation. I feel like Adius is going to be a very, very, very big character in the next book, so I just wanted to put that out there, and I'll talk about him a little bit more when I get into characters. All right, so moving into the history of Crescent City, which I think is actually going to make the plot make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to start off with Peleus, who is actually the creator of Luna's Horn, and he was the first Starborn prince of the Fae, so he had this Starborn blessing, and he created the horn in order to kill demons that crossed into their world. Now, this horn was very effective against killing these demons, so one of the princes of hell, the prince of the pit, I'm going to get into them, used Peleus's blood in order to create the Crystallos demon, the demon from the story, to hunt down the horn, which is, once again, the demon that we see in the plot. So that is where all of those things come from. Peleus also, for some reason, killed his mother-in-law, Queen Thelia, who also possessed this magic power. We're not exactly sure why that is, or if he actually did it, but that might be important in House of Sky and Breath. All right, so now we're going to talk about Hell, which is actually a world where all of these demons are from, and there's also 7 princes that reside in Hell. And at some point, there was a rift between Hell and the Crescent City world, and that's where the demons were able to get in, and that is where Peleus was able to fend off. There's also some talk that Luna's Horn might actually be what opens and creates this rift, but it's kind of unclear. I mean, it's very clear at the end of Crescent City, Luna's Horn is what opens it, but we don't exactly know how Peleus used it in killing the demons. So now, 7 princes of Hell. There are 7 different princes of hell. We meet Adius in the story. He, I believe, is the prince of the chasm. And he doesn't seem intrinsically evil. Like, he actually kind of helps Bryce out. And then there's actually 7 different princes for 7 different levels of hell. So all of the different levels have a different prince. And at the bottom, there is the Star Eater, which is the only prince of hell that was able to kill an Asteri, who I'm about to talk about. But just know what's important is there is a world of hell. There are 7 princes that reside in the 7 different layers of hell. All right, so then we have the Astari, which are essentially the rulers of this entire world, and they're actually the ones that created the Malachim, or angels. And we actually meet one of the Astari in Crescent City. It's Regulus. He is seen as like a gawky teenage boy, but his power is just unbelievable. And I believe House of Sky and Breath is really, or the series in general, is just going to be Bryce and Hunt trying to take down these Astari, these super powerful but slightly evil beings that are controlling Crescent City. All right, so now I'm going to move into characters, and this is just going to be a quick summary of notable characters and how they relate to each other. So I'm going to start off with Bryce and the main friend group. So we have Bryce, half fae, half human, and we find out that she is the daughter of the Autumn King, and then we also found out that she is blessed. She's Starborn, she's the Starborn princess, and she ends the novel with a abundance of power. Then we have Danica Fenrir, who we find out was the alpha of the wolf pack that was killed by Micah, or Micah injected her with synth. Danica actually did kill the entire wolf pack when she was crazed with synth, but it was all because of Micah. She never would have done that if she was not on drugs. So Danica ends up being the one who helps Bryce get or obtain her power from the Bone Quarter, and she's just awesome, and I love her, and she's my favorite character. And then we have Fury, who is the assassin. We find out that Fury's actually known a lot about what's going on, and she's been really doing a lot of things behind the scenes. I think she might end up being part of the Human Rebellion. I'm not positive, but that seems like where it's going. We also find out that Fury is having a relationship with Juniper. Like I said, Juniper is the half fawn who is a dancer, and Bryce finds out during this that they actually are in a relationship, so that's very cute. So those are Bryce's main friends. Now I'm going to move into the wolf pack, which I neglected to really talk about in Crescent City just because there was so much information there. So let's talk about the pack of devils. So really the only main ones I'm going to talk about are Danica. I already talked about her. So then we have Danica's mother, Sabine, who was always very threatened, and I seem jealous of Danica for being the prime. When Danica dies, then Sabine becomes the alpha. Now, Danica also had a second in command who was Connor, who was also killed the night when the Pack of Devils died. Connor actually had a crush on Bryce for many, many years, and right before he died, Bryce said that she would date him. So Bryce is also very hurt when Connor is killed. Now, Connor has a younger brother, Ethan, who ends up stepping up and becoming Sabine's second. Now, Ethan is very angry with Bryce in the very beginning of this novel because he believes that Bryce was off partying and hooking up with other people when she should have been more considerate of Connor, his brother. So as the story goes, Ethan finds out, he ends up forgiving Bryce, and it seems like they have a good relationship. Bryce actually sacrifices herself to try to save him towards the end of the novel. So that is where the wolf pack is. I think Sabine is still the alpha, and then you have Ethan, Connor's younger brother, as the second. All All right, so moving into the Fae, we have the Autumn King. And we find out a little bit more about the Autumn King, that he ended up really loving Bryce's mother, Ember, and he wanted to make Bryce's mother the queen, and actually had drafted up paperwork and everything to have that happen. But Bryce's mother knew she was pregnant and didn't want that life for her daughter, so she ended up running. Now, the Autumn King is not a good guy. He ends up sending, I think, mercenaries or assassins to get his daughter or to kill Ember. And Bryce is able, when she is a child, to use her Starborn gift in order to kill these assassins. And that is how Ember and Ember's husband find out that Bryce is actually gifted and blessed with this star power. And they decide they want to hide that from the Autumn King because they don't want the Autumn King knowing that the power was passed to this half-blood. So that is going on with the Autumn King. He also is just very tyrannical. He's controlling his son Rune and puts Rune down a lot, but has to kind of give him some respect because Rune is star blessed and the only one that has star power, or so he believes. So then we have Rune. He has two friends, Declan and another person that I forgot the name of. Let me say Declan and Tristan. So they form this like group of very powerful Fae. One of them is like a hacker, and that's just Rune's group. All right, and then moving into the 33rd Legion and the Angels, you have Count Athalar. I already talked about him at length. The one thing I forgot to say, his real name is Orion, and he is a lowborn angel that watched his mother really struggle to raise him, and that is why when his mother dies, he ends up joining Sahar in her cause to overthrow her twin sister, Sandriel, and try to gain more freedom for like all the different classes and the humans. And like I said, she ends up, Sandriel ends up killing Sahar and then imprisoning Hunt. So Hunt is really just this like teddy bear character. He really wants to be a good guy, but then he's the Umbra Mortis and he has this crazy lightning power. We also find out that we do not know who Hunt's father is, and I think that's going to be a big thing in House and Sky and Breath. Then we also have Isaiah, who is the leader of the 33rd Legion. Like I said, we don't get very much. He's really just trying to keep Hunt in line. He's also a slave under Micah. And then there's a few other characters in the 33rd Legion. Both of them die, and I don't think they're going to pop up again, so I'm not going to go into that. But that is pretty much the main 33rd Legion. All right, guys, and just some quick vocab. I wanted to say that Lunathian is actually Crescent City. So when you see Lunathian, they're talking about Crescent City. Valbara is actually the continent that all of this is taking place, and Midgard is the planet. So all of those are very important, and I just wanted to throw a little bit more information at you guys. All right, guys, that is it for my summary and recap of Crescent City. I am so sorry. That was very chaotic, and there was a lot going on, and I'm sure there are things I missed. Please, if you've read the book and I missed something very crucial, let me know in the comments so other people don't miss out. I really want to make this video just for those who really have already read the book but don't want to go back and do a reread, and I hope it helps some of you guys out. I said this already, but I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.